पूर्ण ब्रिटिश कोलंबिया की करांगे क्योंकि अज BC के प्रीमियर ऑनरेबल डेविड एबी हुणां दी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस सीगी पंजाबी प्रेस क्लब के नाल। उत्थे डिटेल दे विच कई मुद्दों के उत्ते गल्लां बातां कीतियां सी। प्रोग्राम दे विच कुछ क मुद्दों के उत्ते उन्होंने की जवाब दिते तुहानूं जरूर दिखाउने आपां, क्योंकि इस वक्त BC दे विच बहुत वड्डे इशूज़ ने। हाउसिंग का बहुत वड्डा इशू बनया पिया। इमीग्रेंट्स नवे आ रहे हैं, चाहे पुराने रहण वाले ने, सारिआं नूं बई रहण वास्ते छत ते चाहीदी है। हुण वो छत मुहैया कराउणा सरकार का काम बनता है। किद्दां कराउणी है, महंगी कराउणी है, सस्ती कराउणी है, ये टोटली सरकार दी रिस्पोंसिबिलिटीज़ जरूर आउंदियां ने, क्योंकि आउण वाले 5, 10, 20 सालों का प्लैन करना वो गौरमेंट की रिस्पोंसिबिलिटी बनती है। उतों कोई भज नहीं सकता। लोगों ने वोटां पा के नुमाइंदे चुनते, चुने हुए नुमाइंदियां ने अपना काम किद्दां करना ते उन्होंने काम करन दे योग ते क्वेश्चनेबल बनाउणा ये सरकार दा ते नाल मीडिया दा नाल लोकां दा काम बनता है। पर हुण अज जदों वो सरी दे ग्रैंड ताज बैंकुएट हॉल दे विच पहुंचे तो बहुत सारे इशूज़ दे उत्ते उन्होंने बोलिया, चाहे उहदे विच इन्फ्लेशन सीगी, हाउसां दे घरां दे जिहड़े वधदे होए इंटरस्ट रेट सीगे, उस तों इलावा रोज़मर्रा दीयां जिंदगियां दे कंसर्न सन। हॉस्पिटल हैल्थ का मुद्दा बहुत वड्डे पद्धर के उत्ते विचारिया गया। सरी दे विच इस वक्त हॉस्पिटल की मंग बहुत लंबे समय तो चल रही है, ਉਹਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਉਹ बोले। नाल दी नाल ही ਜਿਹੜੀ स्कूलों का इशू है, बहुत सारे स्कूलों की इस वक्त सरी नूं लोड़ है तो उम्मीद की जा रही सी इस बारी के बजट के विच कोई फंड उहदे बाबत आएगा। सो कई चीज़ों नाल बजट के इर्द गिर्द भी घूमियां। सब तो पहलां जिहड़ी गलबात तुहानूं दिखाउने, क्योंकि सरी के लोगों का बहुत वड्डा कंसर्न आ कि शहर के विच की नवीं म्यूनसिपल पुलिस फोर्स होनी चाहिए है या फिर पहली RCMP ही टिकनी चाहिए है। इस मुद्दे के उत्ते जदों ऑनरेबल डेविड एबी प्रीमियर ब्रिटिश कोलंबिया नूं सवाल पूछा गया तो उन्होंने की जवाब दिता, आपां पहलां वो देखते हैं।
We gave almost $100 million to Surrey under the Growing Communities Fund, which they said they were going to dedicate to the police transition. They haven't spent any of that money to the best of our knowledge. And so the frustration that I have is we've addressed the financial concerns. We've been very clear. We are going to the Surrey Police Service. We are not going back to the RCMP. And we just need to keep going on this. So we have put an administrator in place for the Surrey Police Service to ensure that this continues to move forward. We are working with the RCMP. And that's what's going to happen. The mayor is waiting for a court challenge that she's going to lose. Unfortunately, it's a waste of money for Surrey taxpayers, as it is a waste of money to drag this out longer than it needs to. But I am hopeful that on the other end of that the mayor and I will be able to work together on what matters for the residents of Surrey, which is moving past this, ensuring they get good policing services, good schools, good housing, and the fastest growing city in our province is supported with what it needs.
इस दे नाल ही अगला जिहड़ा मुद्दा उन्हां तो पुछया गया, बार बार कई तरीकों का हैल्थ इशू के उत्ते सवाल पूछे गए कि सूबे दे विच हैल्थ इशूज़ किवें दे ने, कितना बजट दे विच पैसा एलोकेट इन्हां चीज़ों नूं कीता गया। खास तौर के उत्ते सरी नूं नवां हॉस्पिटल एक नहीं बल्कि 2 चाहिए ने अज की पॉपूलेशन के हिसाब नाल ते नवे आ रहे थे इमीग्रेंट्स के हिसाब नाल। पर हो की रहा कि पहला जिहड़ा एक हॉस्पिटल भी है उन्होंने भी प्रॉपर फंडिंग उन्नी नहीं मिलती पई जिन्नी चाहिए है, जिन्ने डॉक्टर्स चाहिए ने, जिन्नियां नर्सिस चाहिए ने। आम लोगों को एमरजेंसी के विच जाके 10-10 घंटे वेट करनी पै रही है। इदां दे हॉस्पिटल के इशू के उत्ते की बोले प्रीमियर डेविड एबी, आपां भी सुणदे हां।
An existing hospital, so it's not a net increase of 550, it's replacing an aging hospital, but it is an increase in beds. I take your point on that. And in Surrey, this is a brand new hospital in addition to existing hospital space. This is the biggest health investment south of the Fraser in the province's history, in addition to a new medical school also located in Surrey to make sure we're training the community health workers to support this community. And the minister went out to Surrey Memorial and met with the doctors and nurses and said, what do you need? What can we do to provide support in the interim here? And they outlined that. It resulted in the hiring of 140 new doctors and nurses at Surrey Memorial, 70 of them internationally trained doctors and nurses that are now working at the hospital, commitments around the new cath labs at the hospital, and additional initiatives to address some of the challenges at the hospital. But I take your key point. We need to do more in Surrey. We'll have more to say about the initiatives that we're bringing about in Surrey to address the huge demand for healthcare from a fast-growing community, because we have to keep up with it. And it's certainly about the capital, the physical buildings to deliver this. It's also about those healthcare workers. And so that's why it was so important in this budget as well, the funding for the medical school. This is not, the announce and not fund approach that we've seen with other governments. This is the medical school is coming. It's coming to SFU Surrey. It's going to open. It's going to be training doctors and nurses to support the community. I know that everybody around the table is getting tired of hearing this, but I have to point out this is an election year, and it's important for people to remember where we were under the previous administration. on schools. Not one new school in the last 4 years of the previous government, not one. And I have to listen to their critic come out and say, oh, the government's not building enough school. 12,000 student spaces in Surrey, 12,000 funded by our government. They didn't build one new school in the last 4 years. Now I have to listen to their critic about healthcare. They sold the land for the hospital, as well as 20 other parcels of public land in Surrey that could have been used to build schools. They sold them off, and I have to listen to their critics say, oh, there's not enough schools.
ਹੁਣ ਸਾਡੀ BC ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਸਿਸ ਨੋ ਡਾਊਟ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੈਂਡ ਓਨਰਸ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਪਰੇਸ਼ਾਨ ਨੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਵਧੀਆਂ ਪਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੇਸਿਕ ਖਰਚੇ ਵਧੇ ਪਏ ਨੇ ਪੂਰਾ ਕਰਨਾ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਿਸ ਤੇ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਵਧੀਆਂ ਰੈਂਟ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਰੇਟਸ ਵਧੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਿਰਾਏ ਵੀ ਵਧੇ ਰੈਂਟਲਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਤੰਗੀਆਂ ਆਉਣੀਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਪਰ ਰੈਂਟਲਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ ਇਹ ਤਰਕ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਕਿ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਰੇਟ ਤੇ ਘਟ ਜਾਣ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਕਿਸ਼ਤਾਂ ਘਟ ਜਾਣ ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਿਰਾਏ ਵੱਧ ਗਏ ਉਹ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਕਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਘਟਣੇ ਫਿਰ ਹੁਣ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਸ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਇਸ ਬਜਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਕੁਛ ਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਦੇਵੇ ਇਸ ਬਾਬਤ ਜਦੋਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਟੀਵੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਕੀ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਵੀ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ
My question is regarding the renters, the rentals, the big number of rentals in British Columbia as we are focusing on the immigrants. So many new immigrants coming to the province, they're staying on rentals. They want to be homeowners one day only if they save money for the home, which they're not like supposed to be saving in these years with the conditions going on. So all these things, inflation you were talking about with the higher interest rates, and when I was listening to the throne speech, they were much more expected in the budget for the renters. But when I see the budget actually coming up, you dressed like $400 for the rentals a year. Like in the tax credit, that's almost I think $33 a month. That's not much to save on. So anything up for the rentals, they're suffering now?
Yeah, thanks. There are a lot of people who are renting who would rather buy because either financially they have to or they can't find something that's appropriate for them. We would like for them to be able to get into the housing market because it frees up rental housing generally. So that's why we did the first-time home buyer credit. But we also understand that people have to rent. So we have this year for the first time a renter's tax credit, $400. If you own a home, you get a property tax credit. But if you're a renter, you don't get anything. Just out of fairness, we've done a renter's tax credit as well, recognizing that people have to rent for longer. But our real focus around renters is to build more rental housing. The biggest challenge around the availability or the cost of rent is that there's just not that many places to rent. And so those places that are available, the rents are getting higher and higher. And so what we've done is in this budget, we have $5 billion in partnership with the federal government to build attainable middle-income rental housing on publicly owned land, school board land, health authority land, provincial and municipal government land that will actually be attainable for middle-income people, around 30% of their income, eligible for people that earn up to $200,000 a year. This is truly a middle-income initiative. In addition, the changes that we've made around being able to build more than one unit on a single family lot, we believe this will allow the private market and private contractors to open up more housing for first-time home buyers and for renters. And we also have a program, if you are a homeowner, where we're supporting people with some of the costs of converting a basement into a basement suite or adding a suite in your home to be able to rent. Because we would like for more people, it's much cheaper for us than building the place directly. We ask for a commitment for 10 years that you're going to rent at a slightly more affordable rate. And it's a bit of an experiment for us to see if it works, to open up additional rental. We've had a huge level of interest in it. I think we're going to be able to use the program quite successfully. But asking homeowners to open up those rental suites and supporting them in doing that.
ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਐਬੀ ਨੇ ਹੋਰ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਬਾਕੀ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਉੱਤੇ ਕੀ ਬੋਲੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਉੱਧਰ ਵੀ ਮਾਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ
There are people who say that now is the time that we need to reduce services, to cut spending, and to reduce the overall budget and reduce our supports for people. Our government's position is that this is the worst time to do that. This is when people need support more than ever before. This is the time when we need to build out our infrastructure to support a growing population. If we don't build out our infrastructure at this point, we risk going into a spiral of insufficient supports for people, which will cause people to either leave British Columbia or not come here, and will ultimately shrink our economy and shrink our prospects for the future. We also know that if we're going to attract and retain the people that we need to grow our economy, we need to have good services. We need to have good schools. People need to have access to family doctors or nurse practitioners. They need to know that when they go to hospital, they're going to get the care that they need. So we've made those choices to support families, to support people, to invest in infrastructure to build our province, and I look forward to talking with you about some of those specific initiatives. Right now, in terms of what British Columbians are feeling,